After an insane 2 days in Germany, it was time to head to our third country on this international stadium tour, Madrid.
Germany, you've been incredible. Let's go to Madrid.
After a few hours of sleep, we made it to the airport for the around 3-hour flight to Spain. Just like the UK and Germany, this would be my first time in this country. And the fact that it was Madrid, a city that I never thought I'd actually have the opportunity to visit, I was pretty darn excited. But even my excitement would pale in comparison to another member of our international stadium tour gang. When we were in Frankfurt, it was the Champions League final. When we visited Wembley, you could see them setting up for the big game. And while we were in Frankfurt, I saw many German fans rooting for Dortmund, because that means that their local team, Eintracht, would have been promoted to the Champions League. Unfortunately for the Germans, this would not be the case. And as I said in the Germany video, after visiting 3 European football stadiums, I was starting to learn a lot more about European soccer. So as fate would have it, we just so happened to be in the very city of the team who won on Saturday night, Real Madrid. With their win, they clinched their 15th championship, an insane accomplishment. And so for Sunday, a massive parade and celebration was planned. And so getting into Madrid, you could feel the excitement within the city. We saw this even when we went out and people were already lining up in the streets, well over 8 hours before the celebration would begin. But we didn't even have to look too far to see how excited people were, because as serendipitous as it was to be here to witness the celebration, it was made even better that we had one of the biggest Real Madrid fans traveling with us, Pastor. But before the celebration, there was something else I had to do, because when we landed in Madrid, I found that we had hit $60,000 raised for St. Jude, which meant that it was time to get on my dancing shoes, even though they were just my regular shoes. It was time to take a flamenco dance lesson. Now, I didn't know a ton about flamenco before agreeing to this, so I was pretty in the dark. The one thing that I did hear over and over again was that it was difficult. And plus, if you saw my cheer from Arizona during 30 and 30, you know that rhythm is not necessarily my strong suit. I met Sophia, who was so incredibly kind and very, very patient. And then, all of this happened. So I'm not stopping here, I'm just stepping. So it's this and this. Okay.
No da piso con eso, ¿verdad? Con nada más piso.
I cannot begin to tell you how much fun I had doing this. I had taken ballroom dance lessons years ago, but this was so different, and I couldn't stop laughing and smiling throughout the entire thing.
Flamenco is hard. That is difficult. And I am gringo.
After my attempt at dancing, we got some great lunch and just wandered around the city, and there was such a mix of history and stunning sights. I had no doubt that the next 2 days would be one heck of an experience. I just had no idea how crazy it was about to get. At around 6 p.m., we headed down to the square to witness the championship parade. And for the next 3 hours, while we waited for the team to make their way to the square, the energy in the crowd was, well, just take a look for yourself. The chants, the songs, the fans climbing trees, the entire experience was a once-in-a-lifetime thing to witness. Because how often are you going to be in Madrid when their team just won a championship? And while this experience alone would have been enough, there was one final surprise for the evening. Real Madrid personally invited us to celebrate their championship win at the Bernabeu. I was so grateful just for the opportunity to attend. But what I witnessed in this beautiful stadium was one of the most energetic and passionate sports events I have ever attended. This was a pure celebration. Each player got their time with the crowd, and as they were announced, songs and chants were sung by over 80,000 people. This wasn't even a game, and I am not exaggerating that this was louder than the Super Bowl. After days of hearing about European football crowds, I finally got to experience one firsthand, and it did not disappoint. So instead of just talking about it, here are the sights and sounds from that incredible night. I can honestly say that even if half the passion is in this building when the NFL plays here in 2025, it's going to be an unforgettable experience. Because even though a single NFL game hasn't even been played here, fans still came out for our fan event, some traveling over 2 hours and one even coming from Portugal. It was a 4-hour fan event, and by the end of the night, new friends were made, stories were shared, and it was just a great time.
I was a little bit burned out of being a soccer fan, because here it's fantastic, but it's also very tribal. And I wanted something just to enjoy, like the sports side of it. Of course, being a fan of a team, it's good, it's cool, but here is a bit lonely.
It's a very small market. It's nowhere nearly as big as Germany, but I do feel there's a vibe starting to come up, and hopefully next year, the game in Madrid, I'll do my best to be there. Should be a great experience. I mean, you see the Bernabeu with Real Madrid, I cannot even begin to imagine what it look like with NFL. So
next year, that's crazy. Like, we are not having a game yet, but we are still loved it, and we are looking for it like a lot.
Madrid was a special place for a number of reasons. It was where, for the first time during this trip, I had a moment to sit and reflect on what had happened so far during this journey. I even wrote a book of a community post on YouTube as I processed this incredible trip up to this point, and just how grateful I was to be doing it. Being able to visit places that I had never been before, all for 2 reasons. Because just like for 30 and 30, this series has 2 purposes: to raise money for St. Jude and help children around the world who are dealing with catastrophic diseases, which by the time we landed in Mexico, we had raised over $80,000. And the other purpose was to finally showcase the international fans who are some of the most loyal and passionate fans in the world, to finally give them a voice and tell their story, just like we did for all teams during 30 and 30. And here in Madrid, it became abundantly clear that we were well on our way to doing just that. But Madrid was special for another reason, because while it was certainly spectacular to witness the parade and the celebration, it was made even better watching Pastor witness it. We met Pastor during 30 and 30 in Cincinnati. I'd never told St. Jude I was fundraising for them, hence the chaotic good, but they found me after I had jumped through a table in Buffalo. I spoke with Lynn from St. Jude in Baltimore and would eventually be introduced to Pastor a few days later. Immediately, all 3 of us got along as Pastor kindly drove us from Indianapolis all the way to Memphis, just so that we could visit St. Jude's campus. Pastor also joined us for the final fan event in Los Angeles, just so he could watch us cross the finish line, and both Johnny and I were constantly in awe of his kindness and generosity. So it should come to no surprise that when I started planning this trip, I wanted Pastor with us. Since joining us on this trip, he has been invaluable. And honestly, I don't know how this would have gone if he wasn't with us. From helping plan most of the trip's fan events or his constant support and care for others, Pastor is a true one of one. During this trip, I have seen hundreds of fans come out to events. Their passion and love for their team is truly a beautiful thing to see. Because this is the best part about sports. For a few hours, we could throw on a jersey, scream, laugh, cheer, commiserate with fellow fans, and have an excuse to be a kid again. So as we waited 3 hours at the parade, I got to watch the absolute joy that was on Pastor's face as he got to see his favorite team that plays an ocean away. All the fans I've spoken to have gone through the exact same thing. Many have never seen their teams play, and yet their support of their team never dwindles. And so to be invited to the celebration inside the Bernabeu and see him screaming and singing with 80,000 other fans was one of the highlights of the entire trip. He doesn't even know this is in the video, by the way, because he wouldn't want this to be about him, because that's who Pastor is. He is truly one of the best people I have met, and I am so incredibly happy that he's part of this adventure. Because while this journey is and has been for the kids and the incredible international fans, for that one night in Madrid, that was for Pastor.
Unreal, unmatched, like nothing I've ever lived before. Seeing them lift the 15, it's unreal.